Hey there, StarCraft 2 fans. Welcome to another broadcast. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Kraft Cup. This was a tournament that was held local in my area. You can see the Kraft logo down here, the overlay. This particular tournament had about 4 players in it. It was a very small tournament. Here in the bottom spawning area on Metalopolis we have Moonmonk, the purple Zerg player, and in the top area we have the red Terran player, Mouse or Moss. So opening up here looks like we're going to have pretty standard opening. The Zerg player slightly ahead looks like on his drone timing. Overlord making its way across the map to the close air location. Going to be taking a look to see if he can spot the Terran player over in that particular area of the map. If we take a look at the production tab, we'll notice a supply depot started for the Terran player as well. Looks like he's going to actually be placing it on the low ground in front of his base. A little bit unusual placement. Typically most Terran players are going to place it up here at the high ground as opposed to the low ground, simply for walling off. Make it a little bit easier to wall off, a little bit easier to protect. We do notice the Zerg player actually scouting up here to the 3 o'clock position now, or 2 o'clock position. Taking a look to see what he can see. Barracks on the way now for the Terran player. This was pre 1.2 patch, so this is still when you could wall off with just a couple of 2x2 buildings. That now has changed, of course. This tournament was actually held back in I believe October. This is the very first game I'm casting. This is going to be one of several games that were part of this tournament. Do see the Overlord obviously has not located. However, the Terran player, by scouting the Overlord, actually now knows where the Zerg player has spawned, which is going to be down at this at the 6 o'clock location. The Zerg player now does see also where the Terran player has spawned and is now punching away at the barracks there. Obviously not going to do a whole lot of damage. We'll go ahead and turn on the hit point bars here. We do see that he actually did do some damage to that SCV. However, the SCV did move out of range before he was able to do any significant damage. We do notice the Terran player throwing down a barracks on the high ground here, looking to do the Macarax, I believe it's called, where you put one barracks on the low ground to shorten the rest distance and one on the high ground within close distance, so you can get your units there a little bit more quickly. We do notice that the Zerg player has started an expansion. It's about halfway finished. Spawning pool also as well about halfway finished. Zerg player looks like he's just going to do a little bit of scouting around here, probably to make sure there's no SCV hiding out waiting to do any extra scouting. We do have an extractor now going down for the Zerg player as well, while the refinery for the Terran player is nearly finished. He is placing a supply depot behind the smoke screen, obviously to detect any units that are dropped off or any Nidus worms that pop up in that particular location. Overlord from the Zerg player slowly making his way across the map. Probably going to be looking for any proxy buildings or just to sit up here and spot expansions. He might actually make his way over here to this natural expansion of the Terran player just to check out the expansion timing. He did leave his drone down here just to check out when that particular rush is going to be coming, because it does look like the Terran player is probably going to put on a little bit of early pressure. We do have a tech lab coming now for the Terran player on his high ground barracks. In terms of harvester count, if we take a look at that, pretty similar. The Zerg player is actually only 1 harvester ahead and nearly losing that drone there. Pushing out with 4 Marines here. We do have a couple of Zerglings pushing out across the map for the Zerg player as well, so it looks like these units are probably going to meet up here. However, he may lose that SCV if the Zerglings are able to get one more hit off. But unfortunately, the Marines are going to intercept, and they're going to take out both of those Zerglings without taking out the SCV. So, unfortunately, no gain there from the Zerg player whatsoever. He is going to be throwing up a spine crawler here at his front door just to prevent any sort of early pressure that's coming. We do have the Queen coming out, dropping down a creep tumor just to get that started right away. The first Queen in the main is also already done her thing, dropped that first creep tumor. We don't have any spread from that creep tumor yet, so we'd like to see that progressing here pretty quickly. We don't even have speed on the way for the Zerglings. The Zerg player does have actually quite enough gas. He could be looking to throw that down, unless he's planning on looking to do a layer, which is not on the way either. Did actually just spend some gas, so probably does have that Zergling speed on the way, which we do now see has just been started. Now the Terran player hanging up here on the high ground with his Marines, not actually pushing forward whatsoever just yet. Overlord positioning really good here. I like this. He's able to move the Overlord in to this natural expansion to see what's going on, but not likely to be spotted up here in this top part of the map. Very unusual place for a player to actually scout. We do have a small force of Marines and Marauders here, so if these were to push out across the map, they could do significant damage. We do see a small group of Zerglings here, probably just looking to defend the base. The Marines actually now going to fall back knowing that they're outnumbered, probably saw those Zerglings push forward and realizing that that probably wasn't the best move that he could make. Do have several more Zerglings now just spawning. Larvae also being spewed by the queens. Zergling speed now about 75% finished, so we could look to see a push here pretty quickly from the Zerg player once that speed finishes. He does only have about 15, 16 Zerglings here, so not too much he's going to be able to do, but could put on a little pressure to the Terran player. One Zergling pushing out across the map. Looks like he's just going to do a little bit of scouting, checking out that natural expansion, which we do see is now complete. The Zerg player, I'm not sure if he sees this. Let's take a look. He does not see that expansion yet. The Overlord is just slightly out of position of where that expansion is going down. Terran player rallying his troops up here on the high ground. Does get a couple shots off on a Zergling, but is not able to take it out. Does manage to capture the watchtower, does pick off that one SCV. However, this fleet of Marines and Marauders here could be quite a bit of trouble for the Zerg player. He does have some Zerglings, but if we take a look at the production tab, he does have quite a few more, 22 more Zerglings in production, all producing right now. So those are going to be pushing forward, looking to break off this attack. The Spine Crawler does get taken out by those Marines and Marauders. The Queen in here doing damage as well. The Zerglings look like they're going to be able to clean this up. Stem was used, however, it was just not effective enough to handle all of those Zerglings that did come out for the Zerg player. Terran player throwing down a scan, see if there's any tech going on. Right now we do have a Baneling's nest. I'm sure the Zerg player is well aware that the Terran's probably going to be going Marines and Marauders primarily, so he's looking to just mainly push out with Banelings and do quite a bit of damage that way. That splash damage can be really deadly. Quite a few more Marines and Marauders here for the Terran player as well. He is morphing his natural into a orbital command currently. The Zerglings looking to make a play here, however they are pushed back by the Marine and Marauder ball. Zerglings now just doing a little bit of scouting, seeing what they can see. We do see an additional engagement. More Zerglings. They were actually looking to get a flank, so the Zerglings actually looking to push from all angles. Still not able to get in. Looks like they will pick off that one SCV though. A mule coming down at the most awkward time. Really could have been terrible there if the Zerglings had picked off that mule. We do see the Terran's the Terran's main base is pretty much oversaturated, so should be looking to rally some of these workers down there as soon as possible. You will see he does have over a full page, a full tab of workers there. The Zerg player now throwing down his second expansion up here on the high ground. This is about 60% complete now, so we will be looking to see some more drones transferring over there. If we take a look at the income map, we do see that the Zerg player is significantly ahead in income. In harvesters, he is 10 harvesters ahead. However, he is making a push out with his Marines and Marauders again as well, and continuing to produce SCVs. Actually not producing any SCVs at the moment. Does look like he's going to get a reactor on his factory, so probably going to look to pump out some Hellions here. Those are going to be especially good against the Zerglings, however not so good against the Banelings, because the Banelings are not light units and the Hellions are, so the Banelings are going to do significant damage to them. We'll see he does have quite a few Banelings here ready to do a lot of damage. Zerglings pushing out, the Speedlings pushing across the map. We have fairly good creep spread here. We've got it going both directions, looking to push forward. Going to reclaim that watchtower, taking out a free Marine there. The expansion for the Zerg player is now complete. He does have some drones over there doing some mining. No gas on those just yet. He does have both his geysers in his main and his natural completely claimed. And we do see another scan from the Terran player going down. Excuse me. We do also see a Spire now going down for the Zerg player, so probably looking to transition into Muta Baneling or Muta Speedling. A very common play for layer tech for a Zerg player. If we take a look over at the APM tab, we'll see both players very similar in terms of APM. Obviously APM not a great indicator of skill, but definitely something to take a look at when it comes to moving those units around and microing around and macroing as well. Going back over the production tab, we will see that we do have the speed upgrade for the Overlords on the way. We do have infantry upgrade level 1 on the way for the Terran player as well. Obviously with this infantry ball that he has, that's going to be a great upgrade to have. He does have his gas going down, a couple of supply depots back behind the geysers. Still sticking with just 4 barracks right now. Probably would like to see 1 more barracks go down since he does have this expansion up. I think he could afford to produce over that extra amount of barracks. We do have a push forward here from the Terran player where it looks like he's going to get completely surrounded. We do have Zerglings coming in from both sides. Banelings coming in, taking out all the Marines. The Zerglings coming in to clean up the Marauders. A few Marines left. However, the Zerglings are just completely going to clean that up. And now it looks like the Zerg player's in a really good position with all these Zerglings. Look like he's going to make a play forward. If he comes into the natural expansion right now, the Terran's going to be in a lot of trouble. You will see that he has moved his barracks here, blocking the front, so the Zerg player is going to be able to make his way into the main base and completely decimate the Terran player. We'll see that the Zerg player is aware that there is an impending drop, does see these medevacs pushing across the map here. However, he completely shuts that down. We do have 10 Mutalisks on the way for the Zerg player, and once those Mutalisks push across the map, I fear that the Terran player is going to be all but finished. He does have the engineering bay down, could produce some turrets. However, unfortunately, he's only got one on the way, none in the main base. All these SCVs are very susceptible. We'll see the mutas that are pushing across the map right now, heading into the main base. I would bet we're going to see some type of pincer attack where the Mutalisks start attacking the main base, and then once the Marines and Marauders retreat, we're going to have a lot of damage done by the Zerglings. We actually do have the Marines and Marauders pushing forward into the Zerglings, completely getting destroyed. However, the Zerglings actually taking a lot of damage here with those medevacs healing on top. But every SCV pretty much from the main base has been completely taken out, actually been moved, I'm sorry. And the turret here getting taken out by the Mutalisks. I'm completely amazed that the Terran was able to rally that many troops together. Those Zerglings completely got destroyed. Mutalisks were able to do a little bit of damage there, but not quite enough to warrant having them fly across the map and do what they did. Unfortunately, it looks like the Mutalisks now able to take out one supply depot, does get a turret to cancel, and actually destroys that turret, picks off a couple SCVs, tries to get a medevac, and does not look like he'll be able to get that. So, fortunately, those Mutalisks so far are not really able to pay for themselves, just not doing the amount of damage I think the Zerg player needed them to do. However, with his third expansion fully operational, we will see on the income tab that he is quite far ahead, actually, about 400 minerals ahead of the Terran player, even with the mule advantage that the Terran player does have. If we look up here in the Terran player's base, we will see that he is pretty much oversaturated in his main, and unfortunately starting to get a bit mined out. He needs to be looking to take his second expansion here pretty soon. We do see a command center now going down as well. However, some of these workers should be rallied over to his natural base, I believe, as well. We do have the mutas pushing across the map here, looking to make a play on the main. However, with these turrets now in place, actually there are no turrets in that particular part of the base. It looks like he almost takes out that tech lab. It is now burning. However, we do see the Terran player making a push across the map here. Looks like some of the medevacs actually getting picked off by the Mutalisks. Great play by the Zerg player, getting those free kills and helping to disable the Terran player's healing abilities. The Terran player does stem and scans as well to pick off some of the creep tumors, stop that creep spread as much as possible. The Banelings pushing forward, a lot of Zerglings here. Zerglings getting a full surround on those Marines and Marauders, doing a lot of damage, and now the Mutalisks coming in here and the GG is called. I think what that really came down to was the Terran player just was so limited in his amount of damage that he was able to do with the Marines and Marauders. And once the Zerg player was able to transition over to Banelings and Mutalisks, it was really over from that point. Getting this early expansion up, he was able to do a lot of damage, was actually going to go ahead and snatch up his third expansion, but with the Spire and with the Baneling Nest, it was really over from that point. The Terran player just wasn't able to keep up without having any sort of tanks in the field. So this was Game 1. We'll be looking to move on to Game 2 here shortly. I appreciate you guys watching. Feel free to comment, subscribe. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching.